I hope my mic is on. Yeah, okay, we need to start now. Message. Thank you. Good morning and welcome all. It's a minute past 10 and our webinar is scheduled to start at 10 o'clock. And just to say, you are all most welcome to this third webinar on cannabis that has been organized by GDAD, that is the Gauteng Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, as well as our sister department, who is in the same building as ourselves, which is the Gauteng Department of Economic Development. So, as I mentioned before, it's our third webinar this year, having started in April. My name is Lorato Matthews. I'm the manager for Research and Technology Development Services. So this webinar, which is one of a series of webinars that we've organized this year, we are in our third quarter of our calendar year, and this is the third one. We will have another webinar in the next quarter. So the theme for today, the title of today's webinar is Unlocking the Gauteng Cannabis Economy, with special focus on SMME development. We've got a number of exciting talks and information provision, which will be provided mainly by Gauteng Enterprise Propeller, as well as the Department of Small Business Development, as well as the Innovation Hub. So you are all most welcome, and we are happy to see you all trying to ensure that you join this important webinar on cannabis. We had the first one in the first quarter, mainly introducing cannabis as a possibility of one of them, the crops being industrialized. At the same time, we then started planning immediately. In fact, immediately after the first webinar that we had the second one, and it was in our second quarter. And in that one, we were looking mainly at financing of businesses that are interested in this journey that we are on the industrialization of cannabis in our province. We've met a number of people as we have started and continued on this journey. We have learned a lot as a department. We have forwarded some of the suggestions and recommendations that were made as we've gone along and met people who are in this industry or who would like to join in this industry to try to revive and ensure that our economy as a province is on track. So we've got 3 speakers who will speak today, and then we will have a panel discussion. But I think I shouldn't take up a lot of time as the program director. I will immediately then hand over to our DDG for Natural Resource Management, Me Dora Mudise. Thank you. She will give the opening and welcome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Matthews, and good morning to each and every one of you on the call. I'm noting now we've got a very good 160 participants. Good morning and welcome to this very important engagement. You know, as you can see, we are not winding down in December. We are actually winding up and making sure that what needs to be done really gets done. So as Melorato has mentioned, this is the third of our 4-part really dialogue series on the cannabis matter, really with the main intention from our side of developing this particular sector and ensuring that as Gauteng province, we position ourselves such that we end up leading in this particular space. Our first session that we had, we looked at legislative issues and regulatory, really, I think, difficulties, as well as what would be done in the near future to ensure that we have really a regulatory package or regulatory sandbox that allows us to really function effectively in this particular sector and grow. We then had a second installment that looked at investments, and we explored various investment packages, and we heard from a number of speakers on how they package their own investment into the cannabis industry itself. And I think even following that, as the chairperson has mentioned, even ourselves, we undertook to really visit a number of role players to really try and understand how we package this some more. So this being the third one, we are focusing mainly on SMME development and how do we really navigate these different spaces to ensure that as SMMEs, we are able to thrive in this particular space. And I really look forward to this engagement and hope that a number of you that are already in the space will share your experiences, and those of yourselves that are still planning to enter this particular space will be able to gather some critical insights into really where to start and what to look out for. The fourth one, which we will have next year, will be on R&D as well as skills. But however, we do not view these sessions as a means to an end, but rather platforms that enable us to move a bit forward. As we have communicated before, in Gauteng, cannabis development is one of the 10 high growth sectors in our long-term strategic plan, which we call the Growing Gauteng Together. So we have been tasked by our executive authority to ensure that Gauteng becomes really the cannabis hub or mecca. And for that to happen, we will require to understand all the nuances that are in this particular sector. And it's through these particular engagements, as well as more engagements that we've been having on an individual basis with a number of yourselves on this particular platform, that we will be able to package our cannabis program such that we become a huge hub. We do know what your challenges are from our engagements, the issue of regulation and the issue of profitability remains a challenge at this point. It has been predicted that cannabis will inject more than 27 billion into the economy by 2023. We have, through looking at global models, also realized that the black market still very much generates more than the mainstream economy around cannabis. And we do not want that trend to be like that within Gauteng, and which is why we are making sure that we tick all the boxes in what is it that we aim to do. So my role today, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, is really just to welcome and open the session. So I shouldn't really talk much, but then also to, in advance, thank a great lineup of speakers that we have today. Really, I'm thanking you, each and every one of you, for the contribution that you will make, and then also a very, I think, active panel that I am seeing here. We look forward to engaging with yourselves and to hearing from you this morning. So with those few words, I welcome you, and the session is therefore declared open. I never know what to say in these things. It sounds like such a ceremonial task to declare the meeting open, because in my books, the minute you logged on and you were allowed in, then it means the meeting had been opened. But let me be ceremonial about it and say I declare the meeting, the seminar, webinar, officially open. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Oh, okay. I was speaking with my mic off, but I think it's on now. I would just like to request that for those of you who are joining us, if you could please switch your cameras off, because we can see one of our guests, Stevens. I can see. If we can please put the camera off, so that we try to stick to today's business. Thank you, Memodisa, for opening. And as she indicated, the session has now started and it's officially opened. Okay, let's kick off with our first speaker. Is Mr. Thulani Guliwe, representing Gauteng Enterprise Propeller, which is a GPG organization that is there to foster development of small businesses in our province. So I think, Mr. Guliwe, you can please go ahead and please give us information on how and what the SMME opportunities are within the GEP. I think this will be very useful information, as this work that needs to be done is within this province. So please go ahead, Mr. Guliwe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Program Director. I'm trying to connect my presentation. Just bear with me.
Are you winning, Mr. Guliwe?
Yeah. No, I'm struggling a bit because it's not showing. It's not showing up. Maybe let me request Anthony from your side to beam it up.
Okay. Mr. Moloto, if you could please. There we are. I think we are covered now. Thank you. I hope it's the correct one.
Yes, it's the correct one.
Great. Okay.
Okay. Let's see. Okay. No, thank you very much, Chairperson. And good morning, colleagues. My name is Thulani Guliwe from the Gauteng Enterprise Propeller. I'm just going to give a presentation on the GEP offering on small businesses. Can you scroll down, Anthony? Okay. Thank you very much. My presentation outline covers the following. The introduction, the GEP strategic posture, and then our approach, the GEP mandate, our Gauteng entrepreneurship model guideline, and then the alignment with the township economic revitalization, the GEP product offerings, and then I also wanted to share some information on the new special fund, which is the rebuilding fund, which emanated from the recent spate of looting, and then the business development support, as well as the micro and the captive funds that we offer to small businesses. Next slide, please. Yeah, it's quite disturbing because a lot of people are still coming, and it affects this presentation. Let me indicate that I just want to start with the burning issues in terms of the SMME space. What are the challenges, the major challenges facing SMMEs? I think there's a high level of informality of SMMEs in the townships, which is around 90%. And there's also a very, very low level of Hemp startup compared to our countries at a similar level and countries that fall behind us in terms of their level of development. And there's also a low survival rate of SMMEs up to 3 years. You remember in the past, the survival rate was very low, up to 18 months. Now, I think there's a little bit of improvement to 3 years. And we say 3 years is not enough. We need to take it up at least to 10 years. And the other challenge in the province is that interventions to small businesses are quite fragmented in the province. You'll find municipalities, they've got their own budgets, earmarked for SMME development. We've got a number of DFIs in the province. There is no proper coordination in terms of the aggregation of resources. There are also a lot of players within the SMME space, but we need to have an integrated approach to SMMEs in the province so that we start to respond as a block and we start to see the impact. And then the other challenge is that most SMMEs, they lack productive skills. Hence, they find it difficult to access strategic preferential procurement opportunities. Hence, you start to see the low level of uptake because most of them are not producing, are not in a space of producing their products. So those are the challenges that I thought I should flag them up front. And then in terms of the GEP strategic posture, is that in terms of the GEP mandate, we revitalize the province's township economies. We also increase the participation of SMMEs and cooperatives in the 11 priority sectors. We are a responsive and impactful propeller that sustained small businesses. I'm not going to dwell much on the mission and others. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide. Let's jump this one. Yeah, no, thank you very much. Yeah, our approach is that looking at all these challenges that I've highlighted and the ones that I haven't highlighted, is that the role of GEP in terms of the new strategy of the province is that it has been accorded the status of becoming a resource aggregator, trying to mobilize municipalities, DFIs, and other players within the space, even government departments. And then there's a strong focus on agglomeration economies. And also what we want to do also is to develop an integrated, provincial integrated SMME database so that we know what SMMEs are there, at what level they are in terms of their capabilities, when there are opportunities, and how best to cluster them to access those opportunities. And then part of our strategy is to develop a strong pipeline of SMMEs because from time to time, when there are investors that want to invest on small businesses, there's a struggle to say we've got these 100 within the ICT or these 200 and so forth. So we are working on the development of that pipeline of SMMEs, and also to facilitate and mobilize a pipeline of co-funders. And then in terms of the reallocation effect, we are also prioritizing the 11 priority sectors, but also looking at other sectors outside this, because there are a lot of sectors with the potential, except the ones that we have prioritized. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, in terms of the mandate and the impact, is that our focus is on creating sustainable and competitive small enterprises, contributing meaningfully to economic transformation and job creation in the province. And we are focusing on 3 pillars. The first one is that we promote, we mobilize, and integrate, meaning we promote entrepreneurship, we mobilize resources, facilitate and integrate, and facilitate an integrated approach to enterprise development in the province. The second one is that we develop and support. This is through business development support. We also provide financial and business development support for the growth and sustainability of small enterprises. And we've got a special focus on the radical economic agenda in terms of transformation. There are sectors that we are focusing on. We want to change the ownership patterns. As you would know that the means of production, resources, the wealth is owned by few individuals. That is globally and also locally. So we are serious about changing the spatial economic patterns. We are guided by the Gauteng entrepreneurship model. So we look at the startup level. We start from the ideation, from the pitching of ideas, and then that is up to from 5,000 to 50,000, and then we look at the startup level. We also look at the early stage. That is when SMMEs start to get purchasing orders, start to get markets, and then the growth stage, pitching from around 100Ks up. That's where the businesses, they start to expand, they start to mature, and also start to exit. So this is our growth model of SMMEs. Next slide, please. Yeah, I'm not going to dwell on this one, but it's critical that we do align ourselves with the township economic revitalization strategy, with a strong focus on access to finance, economic infrastructure, supplier development, training, and also the promotion of manufacturing. I think that's where we are found wanting in terms of the issues of manufacturing. Most of these businesses, they don't manufacture. So as a result, we've got very few players in the space. Hence, there is a need for investments in terms of the productive skills, the skills to develop tradable products. So I think one of the challenges globally for countries like South Africa and Brazil is that our focus we are still hell-bent on simply products. I think we need to move from simple to complex, while SMMEs are still struggling with perfecting the quality of their products. Some are not even in this space. So this one is key in terms of our interventions. We support SMMEs and also cooperatives. We look at the financial support. And in terms of the financial support, we focus on the captive fund, which is fund from around 350Ks up to 5 million, looking at the high growth sectors. And then we also focus on microfinance, I think, which is a fund from around 10,000 up to 350,000 and around 500,000 in that range. And we also offer contract finance. That is in case you get a contract or a purchasing order, you need an operational capital. We normally look at the contract, we form what you call it a joint account, and then we are able to disperse. This one normally moves quickly because there is a guarantee in terms of the return on investments. And then we've got a community fund which focuses more on your informal businesses, that is more of your informal traders, that is up to 10,000. And then we've got a focus on SMMEs and cooperative incubation and mentorship. And then we've got post-investment support, which also looks at the progress of the business post-funding. We also look at the business development support. In terms of various studies, the business development support constitutes around 85%. And then the rest, 15%, is financial support. So when you talk small business development. And then we look at the access to market to support the businesses. Right now, we are trying to negotiate the set-aside from various government departments, also in terms of the BBBE, and also the procurement set-asides, although there are some challenges around this one. We also focus on cooperative assistance program, and then we focus on, I think, which is around 30, this one is around 30,000, but recently we've revised the packages. I think it's up to 50,000 now, including the township business renewal, which focuses on township businesses. And then we've got a youth accelerator program, which focuses more on the placement of youth in terms of acquiring experiences. We are also looking at youth-owned businesses. We support them with business development support. We provide them with an opportunity to pitch their business ideas, and then we work with them. And then we also assist with the formalization of businesses through CIPC registrations. And also we've got other special projects like the pitching booster, but we are still reviving these two, and also the startup kit, which we are rolling out in a number of programs, like the install, maintain, and repair. It's back on the agenda. And then we've got an enterprise supplier development, and then the rebuilding fund. With the rebuilding fund, I think, thank you very much. Yeah, with the rebuilding fund, with the rebuilding fund, this fund target businesses that were affected by the spate of looting around July. We are focusing more on, I think the threshold for the formal businesses is up to 1 million. Businesses must demonstrate that they were indeed affected during COVID through their performance in terms of the financial statements and others. And then there is also an element of grant up to 50,000. And I must say that GEP has committed, in partnership with the IDC, they've committed around 100 million for this particular fund. On the other hand, the IDC is providing grant funding, while GEP is providing loan funding regarding the rebuilding. And then in terms of who can apply for this one, is that the applying business must be based in Gauteng. It must demonstrate that it was affected by looting. It must also demonstrate the ability to service the loan agreement through repayment plan, and the business must provide evidence that the enterprise was trading before COVID or the unrest. The evidence may also include bank statements, invoices, and lease agreements. But I must say that the application that we have received, they were found wanting because some of these requirements, they do not meet some of these requirements. Hence, there are a lot of cancellations around this one. And that the businesses should not have applied for national government insurance relief. through SASRA or any other insurance provider, and that the financial assistance offered is a loan and a grant funding. Next slide, please. Yeah, what can be applied for is that there must be a focus on the rebuilding costs. There must be funds for repairs. There must be funds to replace stock or inventory. There must be funds to replace equipment, and also restored access to critical supplies, increased business security, and then the restoration of infrastructure, and also the fund to cover staff costs during business downtime, and also the business rescue services. Yeah, how to apply? I think this program started around August 24. The businesses can apply online on www.gp.co.za, but I must indicate upfront that this online application system had some technical glitches. I'm not sure whether it has been resolved now, but businesses have resorted to applying directly to GEP, and that entrepreneurs requiring assistance with their applications may visit the nearest GEP regional offices, and that funds are available on a first come, first served basis for those who qualify until the funds are exhausted, and that businesses not requiring funding support may also apply for business development support. Next slide, please. Next slide. This is in terms of the business development support interventions that we offer to small businesses. We provide information and advice. We provide mentorship. We provide training. We support township businesses through the TPR. We also provide cooperative and incubation. And we also facilitate support from other government departments and other players in the space. And we also facilitate procurement opportunities for small businesses. Yeah, next one. Yeah, this is in terms of the micro loan. I indicated earlier on that the businesses must be South African owned businesses, that is the ownership, and that the business incubation must be in Gauteng. For the micro loan, it starts from 10,000 up to 350, but it has been revised to 500,000 now. Yeah, we focus on all the sectors of the economy apart from the priority sectors. Next slide, please. Yeah, in terms of the KIP fund, it starts from 10,000 up to 2.5 million. But looking at the high impact sectors or opportunities, we also fund up to 5 million. We will look at all the sectors of the economy. Next slide, please. Yeah, in terms of the requirements, the business must be a South African citizen. It must be located in Gauteng. It must have a tax clearance certificate. The entrepreneur must be the owner and the operator of the business, and that the business should have a black majority ownership of at least 51%. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You
I
are
think your
muted.
microphone is on mute.
You are on mute, Chairperson.
Oh, yes. Sorry about that. So sorry about that. I was just saying thank you very much for that presentation, Mr. Kuliwe. There's a lot of work that's being done by GEP, and all the things that you have, given us in terms of assisting small businesses. you know, the work that you are indicating you are doing and you still need to do as resource aggregator, as trying to make sure that you develop an SMME database, and also developing a strong pipeline for of SMMEs as well as co-funders, as well as trying to make sure that you are aligned along the 11 priorities of the GPG. So I think what will be possible is that the presentation has been made available to ourselves. I would strongly encourage, for those of us who are attending this webinar, to make use of these services that are being provided by GEP, looking also at some of the challenges that that Mr. Guliwe, mentioned about SMMEs. So I think it's very, very useful, to see that there are a number of, services they are developing. There are a number of services that they are providing. And I would strongly encourage, if you are a small business, for you to please take advantage of some of the things that have been indicated here. Okay, we move on with the program. We've got Mr. Samuel Rakanya, who is going to represent small business development. He is standing in for one of his colleagues who should have been here today, but he has kindly and humbly enough accepted to represent the Small Business Development Unit. So we will hear about the SMME opportunities within the DSBD. So over to you, Mr. Rakanya. Please go ahead and please give us information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Greetings to ladies and gentlemen on the webinar. I will, for a short while, be on video, just so colleagues and participants will be able to see me. Program Director, I hope my presentation is visible.
It is visible. It is visible. I think what you would need to do is maybe to go on to slideshow mode. Great. We are on that now. So it is visible. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Allow me then to deactivate my video function to allow the connectivity to be part. Thank you very much, Program Director. As indicated, I'm in for Mr. Bukile Nkabinde, who is our lead official at the department when it comes to issues of cannabis and support towards that industry by the Department of Small Business Development. My name is Sapor Raganya. I'm within the policy unit of the Department of Small Business Development. Program Director. Okay, it was not moving for a second. The outline of today's presentation will be covering the introduction. We'll talk about the cannabis sector support plan, which the department has developed. We will talk about the cannabis small enterprise support program, which is also an instrument developed by the department to support small enterprises within this industry. And we'll look briefly into some of the 2021-2022 targets by the Department of Lands when it comes to supporting the cannabis industry. and small enterprises within the cannabis value chain. So just to mention, program director, that really we are feeling like we joined the series of these webinars at the tail end, but we are hoping that going forward, since it was mentioned that this is the third for this financial year going forward, it would be great really to be involved. So colleagues and participants might be aware that really the National Development Plan has pinned the economic growth and job creation of this country around small enterprises. The projected estimations are as an assumption that small enterprises are doing well and are able to generate that targeted number of employment opportunities. So the approach that was taken by cabinet in this administration, colleagues, was that of a reimagined industrial strategy that placed 7 sectors as priority sectors to move the economy of this country forward. And out of that, about 15 to 18 subsectors are to develop what they call the sector master plans. And the Cannabis Industrialization Master Plan is one of them, which is led by the National Department of Agriculture, Rural Development, and Land Reform. So out of that master plan, the DSBD is a prominent key stakeholder, and we are leading a pillar in that master plan. And the department has then seen it critical and important to develop a cannabis sector support plan. And this was during the financial year 2020-2021. And we've then since out of the Cssp, we've developed what we call the Cannabis Small Enterprise Manufacturing Support Program, which it's really linked to the Cssp as an instrument to support small enterprises within the value chains of cannabis. And we've analyzed both hemp and cannabis value chains to identify those critical areas that might need an immediate intervention in as far as small enterprise support is concerned. So Program Director, allow me to then zoom into what really this cannabis sector support plan is, and how did we as the department then come to that point. So through the Cannabis Industrialization Master Plan that I just talked to, I will contextualize this through some of the areas of the master plan that speaks directly to issues of small enterprises. So Objective D of that master plan speaks to creation of opportunities for small and medium-sized enterprises across the cannabis value chain. So you would see through that objective that already small enterprises are then being put forth, and then support and creation of opportunities for them remain key. I will then take you to Objective H, that really looks into issues of increasing and establishing manufacturing capacity for small enterprises within this industry. And in relation to the Cssp that I talked to, the Cannabis Sector Support Plan, really is born out of Pillar 6 of that master plan, which speaks to issues of enterprise and supplier development. And this is the pillar that the Department of Small Business Development is leading and supported through by several other key institutions being from the public and private sector. So out of that, colleagues, the department has then developed the Cssp, and this is linked to the master plan that the department is leading, the National Integrated Small Enterprise Development Master Plan, abbreviated NISET. So this is really to consolidate and link all the efforts that are being made by the department towards supporting small enterprises within the cannabis industry and linking them accordingly to just to ensure that whoever our beneficiaries are, then they are brought forward to ensure that the economic value and the legalization of this industry really benefits small enterprises that we are deeming critical for them to benefit. And just to mention that there's an Interministerial Committee on Cannabis Industrialization and the Department of Small Business Development Minister is a member to that IMC. So this really put the department at the fore to say small enterprise development remains key when it comes to issues of industrializing this sector, and really small enterprises should take advantage of that transformation. The process really, colleagues, started off with having to conceptualize the Cssp, which was during the 2020-2021 financial year, and among other stakeholders that we have consulted with involves those institutions that are listed on the slide, your DTIC, your task team representative at the Cannabis Industrialization Master Plan Interdepartmental Task Team. That's a task team that comprises of all cluster departments and key institutions that are deemed critical to the process. We've consulted with the Ministerial Advisory Committee on Cannabis, which is a committee that is led by the Department of Health. We've consulted with our internal programs and units that we consider critical for the process. During the time, the Deputy Minister of DSBD was considered to be a political head assigned for the issues of cannabis, and her office as well provided guidance and inputs to the process. The aim and objectives of the Cssp, really the aim is to conceptualize, to provide a strategic framework in support of small enterprises in the cannabis value chain. And some of the objectives involves development of interventions that are informed by evidence, your research that will seek to advance issues of small enterprise development within this industry. So we need that well-informed intervention, your programs, your strategies, even policies that are guided by a well-researched process. Promotion and advocacy for an enabling policy, legal and regulatory environment. Let's do away with all the involved policy, all legal and regulatory red tapes that will seek to disadvantage small enterprises in the process of really taking them forth in taking advantage of this industry's involvement. We are also advocating for ease and accessible issuing of operating licenses for startups to access skills and support. So we are aware that getting the license, the operating licenses, being it at a cost level, it's not easy, being it the accessibility thereof. So the department through the Cssp is advocating to have that process really being easy and accessible. Objective D speaks to the instrument, the targeted instruments that will seek to support both non-finance and financial support towards small enterprises that are operating within this industry. And our focus really is that let's consider our women-owned, our youth-owned, and people, the businesses that are owned by people with disabilities, and most especially those in township and rural areas. As we work towards transforming this sector, let's bring all those previously disadvantaged groups to the forth. And lastly, objective E, it's really to seek collaborations, being with both public and private institutions that will really seek to advance for an inclusive and sustainable and globally competitive industry in the country. So we are already into some partnerships as we work towards this objective. We are establishing partnerships already. We are going into pilot initiatives. But most importantly, we are continuing to be open to engage and be engaged as we work towards this implementation of initiatives that will seek to support small enterprises within this industry. Colleagues, just to be reminded of what this glorious plant can do and some of the industrial uses of cannabis. I won't take much here, but you are aware, colleagues, that this plant can be used for various purposes, and some saying this will really serve just as a reminder to participants of what this plant can be used for, especially when we considering the industrial purposes. So colleagues, as per objective D of the aims, of the objective of the Cssp, which talks to the targeted instruments, allow me to talk to the Cannabis Small Enterprise Support Program, which is a targeted instrument that was born out of that objective of the Cssp. So the aim of this is really to serve as a scheme to develop that targeted instrument for the support and promotion of small enterprises that are operating within this industry. And the first objective really talks to provision of finance and non-financial support program that will seek to enhance small enterprises within this industry. And secondly, program director is to work in partnerships, collaborating towards cannabis industrialization value chains, and really to put small enterprises in the forth when entering into that partnerships. Pardon me for a typo, we have two A's, the second one really is B. So some of the areas that we are proposing in terms of non-financial support, or what we call the business development services to small enterprises, are within the areas of the business management skills, your technical skills. We're talking issues of route to market, the process of formalization and certification, that is involved within the industry. The issues around quality and standards, and that will be a process that will have to be supported through SAPRA, Department of Health, and any other lab testing facilities for that matter. We are also considering a possibility of incubators or accelerator programs that will be specifically targeted for the cannabis small enterprises, and that is being seen to be a greater tool for the early stage enterprises that will need capital and guidance, including help with marketing, branding, strategies to gain leverage in competition. So that is in a nutshell what we are proposing, although not limited really when we're talking non-financial support. And in terms of financial support through this instrument, we are really suggesting or proposing that this program, this Cannabis Small Enterprise Support Program, is a program that will have to be. There is an initiative by the Department of Small Business Development by the name of Small Enterprise Manufacturing Support. And through that, we have a subcategory of agro-processing. And the intention is really to have this scheme be placed within that agro-processing subcategory. And we are looking into having this as a combination of loan and a grant, that blended finance element. And in consideration of what that blended finance will be used for, we are seeing issues of working capital. We are seeing that this money or this scheme will be used to subsidize issues of operating licenses, accessibility for the startups. There is infrastructure related compliance that is involved in that, and we are hoping that this scheme will provide a subsidy for that. We are also advocating for support of the seed bank and related activities through this. And we are saying there might be other operational costs that might need to go or supported through this scheme. Program Director, just to look into what the department is having as deliverables for this financial year in as far as support to cannabis industry is concerned. During Q1, the department developed or conducted value chain analysis. I already mentioned that we really needed to look into specific areas that our small enterprises are operating within, and what kind of support do we really need to put forth or prioritize when we are coming up with instruments. So we did that, and that was in Q1. So Q2, we had to develop an implementation framework, and that was being done out of consulting with relevant stakeholders and entering into collaboration with some institutions that are keen in providing support for the process. We then, in Q3, designed a pilot. We are working with the Eastern Cape Rural Development Agency. We are working with the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. We are working again with the Moses Kotane Institute in KZN. So with all these stakeholders, we are working towards implementing some of the pilot initiatives that we've come up with, and we are hoping that we get into more of such, and the Gauteng Department of Agriculture and Rural Development really can be one of that. Why not? We might need to enter into a flagship if we are to say we are supporting this industry. Probably that can really be seen as a move towards that, and we are hoping by Q4 we would have entered into a number of these initiatives, and will be reporting against the implementation of the Cssp. So Chairperson and Program Director, we really hoped that we stick to the cannabis. Obviously, there are a lot of other products that are provided by the Department of Small Business Development, but we really thought, let's look into what the department is currently doing to support the cannabis industry, and hence really my presentation had to be focused on what we are doing in that regard, not necessarily other product support the department is offering. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you indeed. It was focused on financing of cannabis, and I think it, you know, you did indicate also. I think it was indicated on your slides that clearly it is mainly about support for the cannabis industry, support for the cannabis small business development. You indicated that you have developed and are now implementing the cannabis sector support plan after looking at after analyzing the cannabis value chain, and that you are then also and looked at small enterprise manufacture support was the other thing in this industry. I think there is a lot, as I indicated at the beginning, that we have learned about this industry. There is a lot of amazing work that is being done by small businesses, and I also then indicated as well that these are some of the things that we have taken forward, we have taken note of, and trying to be as inclusive as we possibly can. We've done a lot of consultations. We've been invited by a number of small businesses to come and see, the amazing work that they are doing in terms of, cannabis. And truly, as the first speaker, also indicated, and I think as well, Mr. Rakanya, you also said, that this is an amazing, it's an amazing plant, and there are lots of possibilities with regards to cannabis. So this presentation was basically talking about the opportunities being created for small and medium-sized enterprises across the cannabis value chain. So, it looks like, separation from the other small businesses is what this Department of Small Business Development has tried to do, so that it is clearly focused on cannabis. Okay, we will open the chat at some point, I think, so that some of your comments can be taken note of and possibly taken care of. I think we'll do that just before we get the panel discussion. Okay, Billy, are you ready? Mr. Billy Bukako from the Innovation Hub Management Company. He's also here to talk about SMME opportunities within TIH. I hope you are ready to come and make your presentation to us. This is our third presentation for today, before we start with the panel discussions. Are you ready, Billy?
Yes, ma'am. Can you see my presentation?
Great. Yes, we can. Yes, you are. And I think we need to go on slide mode. Okay, we are there. Covered. Great.
Right. Thank you so much, Ms. Matthews. And we would like to thank the department for the opportunity to present here today. My name is Billy Bukako. I am the acting senior manager for the Biopark at Gauteng, which is an incubator within the Innovation Hub Management Company. And I'll be taking you through some of the opportunities that exist within the Innovation Hub. Maybe just give you a bit of background in terms of, who we are as the Innovation Hub, what do we do, and in between those conversations, we'll start unpacking, some of the opportunities that exist. I've seen that part of our close to 300 participants today, are within the SMME sectors, and I'm hoping that this would provide a very healthy pipeline for companies within who operate within the cannabis space. Let's see. There we go. So the Innovation Hub Management Company is a subsidiary of the Gauteng Growth and Development Agency, GGDA, and it was established by the Gauteng Provincial Government through the Department of Economic Development as an agency of innovation for the Gauteng City region. The mandate is to promote economic development and competitiveness of the province through innovation and sparking a healthy knowledge economy. We are Africa's first science and technology park, and you can see we are situated within the science precinct in Pretoria, and that encompasses your CSIR, the Department of Science and Innovation, and the University of Pretoria are all our neighbors. And our innovation programs include Incubation, which I will expand briefly on, the Open Innovation Exchange program, or OpenIX, and some skills development programs. The aim, if you look at some of the aim through the different partners that have come up together to, for the establishment of the Innovation Hub Management Company, the Gauteng province aim is to lead, facilitate, and manage sustainable job creation and inclusive economic growth and development in the Gauteng province. And the GGDA says its aim is to enable economic development that is focused on creating sustainable jobs. And us as the Innovation Hub, being a child of both these institutions, our aim is to foster economic development and competitiveness through innovation. You can see the common themes there: sustainable job creation, economic development, competitiveness. And these are some of the programs that we have under within our incubation wing of the organization. The first one is the Climate Innovation Center of South Africa, which focuses on the green economy. And we've got Maxim, which focuses on the digital economies or smart industries. We then have the Biopark at Gauteng, which is the bioeconomy, and that's where we're going to zoom into later on in the presentation. We also have satellite Innovation Hub campuses throughout the townships, which we call the Ekasi Labs, and I'll expand a bit on some of these in later slides. Our other programs include the Open Innovation Exchange platform, which is basically a demand-led innovation platform that links solution seekers to solution providers. We also have the Gauteng Accelerator program, which is a flagship program, which is an innovation competition that we run. So we have on an annual basis, and the current one is running up until February. But the applications have already closed. We are in the process of adjudication. So we have GAP ICT, which focuses on the digital economies. We've got GAP Bio, biosciences. We've got GAP Medical, which focuses on medical devices. And we've got GAP Green, which focuses in the green economy. Our skills development programs include the Coach Lab Entrepreneurship, which is a program that provides mentorship and learnerships for graduates that are ready to enter industry. We also have Code Tribe, which is a program that focuses on providing mentorship on coding. And our key service offerings of business incubators include business advisory and skills development, provision of infrastructure, networking opportunities, and facilitating access to markets and/or finance. And I will elaborate a little bit later on these as well. As I said, our key focus areas, the first one was the green economy. Within the green economy, we've got an incubator that we call the Climate Innovation Center South Africa, which is one of 7 in the world. And some of our key, focus areas within the green economy include water and sanitation, waste management, and clean energy. We then have digital economies. It used to be called smart industries. And we have 2 incubators within Maxim, which is Maxim Smart, which focuses on ICT and advanced manufacturing. We also have Maxim Digital, which focuses on gaming, animation, virtual and augmented reality. And we have a footprint of the Innovation Hub that exists in 10 townships currently. And there's a plan within the next 5 years to roll out an additional 5 Akasi Labs. So Akasi Labs, they provide business development support to startup companies in the townships across, Gauteng, in the 5 corridors. We've got about 310 companies that are incubated there, and some of the focus areas include the 3 broad and main focus areas, which is green economy, bioeconomy, and digital industries. Digital economy. And because of the makeup of some of the entrepreneurs or the businesses within our townships, we also focus on creative industries. And at the bottom there, you will see some of the sectors and the breakdown of these sectors within those locations that are specified there. And the bioeconomy. So as I've said, we've got the biopark at Gauteng as the incubation program that specializes in everything bioeconomy. We focus on health and food security, and under health, we look at things like your devices and diagnostics. We look at biopharmaceuticals, and we look at cosmeceuticals. And these are some of the subsectors that directly link to cannabis. If you also look at the presentation that we got from our colleague from the Department of Small Business Development. Also under food security, we look at agro-processing and nutraceuticals. And some of our drivers include wellness, indigenous knowledge-based products, cosmeceuticals, compliance and security of supply, ethnic and customized products. So the biopark at Gauteng, as I said, it's the incubator that I want to focus on today. Was established in 2012 by the provincial government. It is a result of the implementation of the Gauteng Biotechnology Strategy of 2009. and the Gauteng Innovation and Knowledge Economy Strategy of 2012, which is also known as GAICS. The Biopark is an initiative of the Innovation Hub, but in partnership with Egoli Bio, the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition, our host today, GDARD, and our esteemed partner, and also our shareholder, GDED. And as I said, our focus areas include agricultural biotechnology, which is agro-food processing, bioprocessing, and smart agriculture, and health biotechnology, which is your biopharmaceuticals, medical devices, and some of the sub areas that I mentioned in the previous slide. So through our business incubation, it is in 2 phases. And the first phase is the factory program. So the factory program is a 12-month program. I mean, it could be more or less 12 months, depending on the type of business that we incubate. And it is a pre-revenue or pre-commercialization program. This includes businesses that are really starting up at product development, closer to proof of concept. And the focus really of the factory program is to get technologies ready for market testing, and to get them to a point where they are able to get their first sale. After they get their first sale, we then move them to a 3-year program, which is called the core program. So this is a post-revenue or post-commercialization program for companies that are already selling, but they really want to scale up and grow. And the focus here is market growth. We measure ourselves on local sales and also exports. We try and attract investment by creating business linkages with various DFIs and industry and other public sector partners. So once the company has then demonstrated profitability and sustainability, we then graduate them out of the core program. Currently, we are in the process of finalizing or formalizing rather our alumni program. So companies that have now graduated out of our core program will be able to join the alumni program, which is basically a program that we would like to still provide support to companies that already have scaled up, competitiveness improvement, and also exposing them to export markets. So as I said, this is our incubation program. So we get our entrepreneurs through calls that we issue out. These go out through all various media, social media, print media, and sometimes, radio and television. We then have the Gauteng Accelerator program, which is the innovation competition that I spoke about, and some of our companies come through that. We also managed to attract companies through the Open IX program, which is the program that focuses on solution seekers and solution providers, and also partner competitions. Recently, I think last year, we launched in partnership with the city of Tshwane and the universities within the city. We've launched the Inter-University Innovation Challenge, and we are currently incubating a couple of companies that have won through that competition. We also do get walk-ins, and that is how we add value, and SSP, which is our small grant program, which I'll touch on once we get to the 4 pillars of our value proposition. Okay, so our business incubation service offering is based on the 4 pillars that make up our value proposition. The first one is access to infrastructure. So we basically offer hot desking space. We offer space, manufacturing space at subsidized rates, laboratory space, free high-speed internet, boardroom facilities with video conferencing, and facilities for meetings for our entrepreneurs. We are currently in the process within the Biopark. We are currently building, even though that it has been put on hold, Biopark Phase 3. So we have Phase 1, Phase 2, and now we're busy with Phase 3. And as part of a bigger plan for the organization to strengthen this offering of infrastructure, we completed a business case in the previous financial year that focuses on a smart industry center, which is a smart infrastructure center that we plan to roll out in the next couple of years. So our next pillar is then the access to advisory and skills development. Here we offer IP management and legal advisory. We offer mentorship, technical business mentorship. We also assist with business case development, business and technical training, as well as product development. We also, as a third pillar, offer access to markets. This is at the very beginning offering market and industry reports. We also introduce our entrepreneurs to soft lending opportunities. This is done through introductions to the public and private sector. We also assist with market analysis. We also host networking opportunities and events. So every quarter we have what we call an Innovate event that is themed, where we have public, private, academia, and all the different players of the innovation ecosystem in one room, and hopefully to spark opportunities and to empower our entrepreneurs. The last one, not the least, and probably is the least, is the access to funding opportunities. So internally, we have what we call the SSP, which is the small grant program, which is kept at like 50,000 rands, where we try and assist our entrepreneurs, to try to push them by. We also have a large grant that we facilitate through our partner, the Technology Innovation Agency, and I think it's kept around 600,000. So we also do, because we're not a funding agency, we really depend on our partners for funding. And dare I say, GDOT, GDD, and TMN have been really good to us. And but mainly what we would do is that we would then create linkages to external funding institutions like your GEP, your IDC, your CFAs, and DTIC through the incentive program, and we would facilitate those partnerships. And some of our companies have really greatly benefited from those linkages. So as I said, this is just a brief overview of what the demand-led innovation OpenIX platform works. And this is some of the opportunities that most of our entrepreneurs, find themselves before and even during incubation, and sometimes post-incubation, where we find private companies, state-owned enterprises, government departments, municipalities coming to us and saying, listen, we have a problem, we have this challenge that we need to sort out. And this then goes into the Solution Exchange platform, which then attracts solution providers from your universities, research institutions, private companies, but most importantly and primarily from our own incubated companies, whether alumni companies or within incubation. And the aim of this is to try and help industry and government in solving challenges, solving big business and social challenges in their local context, and facilitation of adoption of novel solutions from entrepreneurs, researchers, and other innovators. As I said, we also have, skills development programs, which is the Coach Lab. I won't dwell much into it, which is basically a partnership between industry, academia, and the Innovation Hub. And as I did say there, it's to identify young potential leaders to be exposed through exposure to industry challenges. So it's actually to bridge the gap between, university and the business world by, exposing these graduates to, real life project-based experience. And we have over 95% absorption by industry partners. We also offer internships. Recently, we've just taken up, EWCTA interns, about 7 of them, about 10 of them, I think, and some of them are placed within our companies, paid for by the SETAs, and some of them are placed within the Innovation Hub. So this is, some of our skills development programs that we have. And there is a list of our sponsors and partners, and these are mostly, private and semi-private. So as I said, this is just an artistic impression of what we're trying to do with development of the Biopark Phase 3, which is currently under construction. Started last year, Jan, and we were derailed by COVID, but we are hoping to pick up soon. And this is one of the initiatives that we have, that we try to bolster our offer to, our offer for infrastructure to our entrepreneurs. So we would have lab space, manufacturing space, office space, just like we have in the first 2 phases of the biopark. And some future development, we've got in the Enterprise Development Building 1, and we're currently also looking into Enterprise Building 2 and Enterprise Building 3, which are earmarked to start anytime after we've finished the feasibility studies. Okay, and I thought maybe just to give a bit of context in terms of the companies that we have within the biopark that operate within, the cannabis space. And we have 2 that I want to showcase here today, and hopefully some of our funding agencies that are here today, and some of, stakeholders with some pockets, can assist these 2 companies move forward. And I think one of them is with us in the call. The first one is Agrismart Engineering. So Agrismart Engineering is a company that focuses on critical cannabis cultivation considerations. They utilize LED cultivation lights in a closed-loop hydroponic system for cannabis cultivations. They came to us through GAP in 2020, and their 2 main offerings is these LED grow lights that are customized to accommodate the photobiology of the plants. And secondly, what they have started doing is that they're formulating a a fertilizer that is based on hormonal growth cycles of the plant. And this is organic, is an organic hydroponic nutrient fertilizer that is earmarked to be registered as a type 2 organic fertilizer. So as you might know, that the industry standard is to use high intensity discharge lighting, HID. And this company has moved now, has moved to focus on, LED lighting, which is 2 times more efficient on electricity and definitely lasts longer. Some of the current activities. So the company is based in Joburg. They are actually occupying an 880 square meter cultivation facility. And to date, they've designed about 235 LED lighting fixtures. They have launched an application with our assistance to the South African, a license application rather, to the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority, or SAPRA. And they've also secured a letter of intent from MG Health, which is a company in Lesotho. So what have we done as the biopark to support them? We've given them funding support for commercialization of the fixtures. We've also paid for the license application with SAPRA, and we're also assisting them with IP protection for the aesthetic and functional design of the LED grow lights. Okay. The second company is The Root. The Root was incubated with us since December, and they're a biopharmaceutical company that operates mainly in the medical cannabis industry. They've got a strong focus on cannabinoid pharmacology and therapeutics. So they mainly focus on the R&D of cannabinoid pharmacology and therapeutics, and they also focus on the extraction of different cannabinoid compounds from cannabis and hemp plants, and this is for the supply to different industries. And they also focus on the production of medicinal products that are derived from cannabinoid. And the disease of interest as part of the medicinal products include epilepsy, rheumatology or arthritis, cancer, chronic pain, diabetes, and hypertension. Currently, they are completing preclinical trials with the Sefako Makgato Health Sciences University, and they're focusing on developing an epilepsy therapeutic product. And the plan is in the second half of 2020 to focus on full clinical trials on the same product. Some of our support to this company includes the development of a commercialization strategy for epilepsy therapeutic drug and a financial model. We've also, assisted with facilitating R&D funding through DTIC's THRIP incentive program, and we've also facilitated engagements with SAPRA on regulatory requirements for complementary medicine status, as well as the registration of a provisional patent for the epilepsy therapeutic drug. And ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Billy. Thank you for that presentation on some of the work that you are doing in the Innovation Hub. To all who are here today, I think you have gotten to know that the Innovation Hub focuses on economic growth, sustainable job creation, and with the main focus also on competitiveness through innovation. And I think, as he mentioned throughout, and with the work that is being done, you can see that the Innovation Hub provides business advisory and skills development, infrastructure, networking opportunities. They also facilitate access to markets and finance. And I think what would have been of interest also is on some of the projects that they are incubating and assisting, and some of the trials that they are going to be involved in trying to ensure that the plant that we are here talking about on cannabis, the true value of cannabis actually then comes out. We will at some point open the chat line, as I indicated earlier. We move on to the second part of the program, and this will be done by the Chief Director for Agro-Processing and Economic Services. That's Mr. Motlatjo Makaipea. He's got a number of guests that he will be interacting with in trying to look at unlocking, the Gauteng cannabis economy through SMME development and support. And there are representatives from Hermetics Health, from Hemp Vest. We've also then got a representative from Group Shumba, as well as the CSIR. Those are the ones who will be joining Mr. Makaipea in the panel discussion. And then after that, we will then have our vote of thanks, and our sister department will be the one that will be presenting on that, bringing our webinar to a close. That will be Mr. Huitsuone Mutloung. So, Mr. Makaipea, I hope you are ready, and to start the panel discussion, and we look forward to hearing what your guests are going to be discussing about today in trying to unlock SMME support. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Program Director Mayor Lorato Matthews. Let me also thank DDG Modise for opening the webinar, and the representatives of the 3 key custodians of SME development in the province as well as in the country, Mr. Guliwe from Gauteng Enterprise Propeller, and Mr. Raganya from Department of Small Business Development. I would also like to thank Mr. Bukako from the Innovation Hub. These are very important institutions in terms of SMME development. We are going to continue the dialogue on the theme of unlocking Gauteng Cannabis Economy through a special focus on SMME development. And in our distinguished panel, we will be talking to seasoned entrepreneurs and accomplished professionals in their own right. They will share with us experiences on the journey they've undertaken to develop their enterprises, the journey they are still undertaking. And they will also talk to us on the pillars of SME development, some among which includes entrepreneur capabilities, finance, market access, all of those challenges. So as we are going to start, I would like to ask the panelists to introduce themselves, the work their companies are doing. I'm just going to give them 3 minutes each, and how they work in the cannabis landscape. We will then follow up with the debate on what needs to be enhanced to accelerate cannabis industrialization in the province. So to kick off the program on this important plant, a plant with many names, various praise names in different languages, a plant with many users that have largely remained untapped, a plant that holds much promise and expectations with regard to job creation, as well as contributing to the economy and industrialization. I would like to ask Mr. Molemo Moatludi of Hemetics Health just to take the first 3 minutes, do an introduction, and talk to us about the company as well as your experience. And then we will then ask Mr. Zain Moadin of Hempvest to follow. And thereafter, we would ask Mr. M.K. Malefani, followed by Dr. Okole. Mr. Moatludi, over to you. You can take the first 3 minutes, introduce the company and the work that you're doing.
Good day, Ndole Makapia. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and good morning to all participants on the call. I am the co-founder and the Chief Commercial Officer of Hemetics Health. We're a 100% Black-owned cannabis company operating out of our farm in Bronkhorstspruit. We started off our journey through an R&D permit, hemp permit initially, which we've now then progressed further into an application to SAPRA for a medical license. We've had our inspection, we've submitted answers to the report, and we're currently just awaiting the final resolution to start anytime soon. So it's been quite a tough introduction into the industry, but we truly believe in it and look forward to the discussions we're going to have with the rest of the panel today. Thank you very much.
You are on mute,
Mr. Makapia.
Oh, my apologies. Thank you very much, Mr. Moatludi. Let me also ask Mr. Zaid to open the camera and do the introduction of Hempvest. Go ahead, Zaid.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you for inviting us to be on this panel. I think it's quite an exciting environment, and we're glad to share this opportunity with you guys. I'm from a company called Hempvest Africa. We started out in 2019. with the specific aim of being a #1 vertically integrated company in South Africa. We got the Hemp permit in 2020. We established a farm early 2020 in January. And throughout COVID, we've been hectically involved with developing the farm, the supply side. With this hemp research permit, we embarked on a very extensive research, commercial research, from supply right down into creating our own products in South Africa. With the sole belief that everybody's focusing on offtake, whereas our local demand provides a huge opportunity for the industry and to actually create our proper to stimulate our economy through black industrials. We have a 21-hectare farm, and we've been through the 24 months, we've been able to develop, cultivate A-grade product that is controlled extraction, and we also, through that experience, look at domain experts that started partnering with stakeholders in the industry to look at inclusivity and to look at including some of the newcomers. And that's me, and hopefully during the day we'll share some of that experience.
Thank you very much, Zaid. Mr. Malefane, if you can put your camera on and introduce MK Malefane Ventures and the work that you're doing in this space. And then from there, we'll ask Dr. Okole to come through as well.
Thank you. Actually, I am joined in our slot with our colleague Mark DuPont from Cali Cannabis in California. We are both members of the VAL Cannabis Capital Consortium, which is developing Gauten's cannabis capital in the VAL. The consortium is made up of established major growers, emergent growers, research and developers, manufacturers, the full value chain of cannabis. Mark, if you can introduce yourself.
Yes.
Mark?
My name is Mark DuPont, everyone. As Mr. Malefane alluded to, I operate Cali Cannabis. We are a full value chain operating cannabis space, operating different capacities, Nevada. As Malefane said, we put together what we believe team can to create this cannabis capital. The majority of the team comprises of industry leaders from South Africa, with additional members providing support from the United Kingdom and the United States. Our goal is to create a central cannabis cultivation, processing, tourism, as well as educational facilities within the Gauteng region, primarily in the Vaal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malefane, and thank you, Mark DuPont, members of the VAL Cannabis Consortium. We'd like to ask Dr. Blessed Okole to also come through to the introduction of what he's doing, the work he's doing for Gauteng, as well as being part of CSIR in the cannabis space. Go ahead, Dr. Okole.
Thank you, Chair. I am Blessed Okole. I am the Research Group Leader, Agro-Processing at the CSIR. And I just want to give a brief. I have 3 minutes, so I can as well explain what we are doing at the CSR. We look at the whole value chain, and as you know, the value chain consists of the genetics and the seeds, the growing, the processing, and also the manufacturing, and finally the distribution. We focus more on the growing, on the processing section of it. And what we've done so far at the CSR is that we've had a collection of most of the genetics and seeds in the country. So we have the flowers of most of the exotic and local varieties. We are focusing more on our local indigenous varieties, which we've collected from indigenous knowledge holders, and also the exotic varieties also, which we had from licensed growers. We've developed and optimized alcohol extraction systems at the CSR, and we've using local equipments for the extraction so that some of these technologies can be transferred easily to small SMMEs. And we have the level now, we can do 100 liters with local equipment and also 400 liters. We also have a CO2 extraction facilities, but that is in our facility in Durban. And then we've developed different analytical techniques to separate and identify most of the key cannabinoids. You know, you have to know most of the cannabinoids in what you're working with. And we're lucky to have most of these analytical equipments here at the CSIR. And we've been able to identify most of the key cannabinoids. We're talking from cannabigerol to THCs to CBD to all of them. You know, we can identify them at the CSIR. We've also purchased a new GCMS, which will be able to also identify most of our terpenoids. And then on the downstream side, we've done distillation, winterization, decarboxylation, short part to have at least the cannabis oil, and also the quality control. We've been able to do that also at the CSR, which is going to be a stumbling block, especially for our SMMEs, because the bar to enter most of, especially the European market, the regulatory requirement is very high, and that depends mainly on quality. So we're working on that to see how we can make our SMMEs to be able to compete also in the international space. We have 3 permits at the CSR for growing product development and also for analytical work. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Okole, and thank you to all the panelists. We have opened the chat line, and everyone is welcome to field questions or write comments on the chat line. The first question I would really like to pose to our panelists is with regard to the programs, the master plan that has been developed by national and at various provinces, including Gauteng. We busy customizing the master plan to fit our circumstances in the province. And I want to find out from our panelists in terms of is the current plans adequate in order for us to be able to achieve the objective of industrializing cannabis in the province and nationally, or positioning South Africa to be one of the leaders in terms of producing cannabis and being a world-class player. Is the current plans and the implementation adequate? And I want to ask Mr. Molemo to give your input first, and I'll also ask then followed by Mr. Zaid in relation to the questions that I've put forward. Mr. Molemo.
Thank you, Ndade. I think it's a start. However, I think we need to be a lot more inclusive, and we need to realize that for us to progress this industry, we're going to have to open up our own local market. We need to have a better medical program. We need to have better education around the benefits of the product and get over the taboo and the stigma that's attached to cannabis historically. So I think there's still quite a long way to go. And ultimately, also the Department of Justice needs to come into play.
Thank you for Zaid.
Thanks. Yeah, like my colleague said, I think it's a great start. However, I do think that we need to look at the entire ecosystem development around the industry. We need to look at specific or more deliberate strategies. I mean, you heard this morning with our colleagues, and I think, my view was always before this session that we have great strategic intent, but our realized strategies at the end because of lack of coordination, lack of budget, lack of priorities and efficiency, that it would actually deter us. And I think if we want to move ahead as quickly as possible, because I think we're already losing some opportunities to our neighboring countries, and some of our SMEs are dying before it's even starting. We need to look at a more holistic, inclusive areas, especially where the segments, the 4 different segments, we need to look at ecosystem development for each one and to have a more deliberate plan for each.
Thank you very much for that input. That leads me to the VAL Consortium, which is a typical...
Chair, can I come in? Can I just add one sentence to what on the National Cannabis Master Plan also, since I was also part of it? Please, 1 minute.
Yes, I'm going to come to you now, Dr. Okwale. I just want the VAL Cannabis to just speak about the cluster as well as the ecosystem work that they're developing. Then thereafter, I'll come through to you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. Mr. Malefani or Mark?
Yes. I will start first, and then Mark will round up. We are a 1.5 billion rand investment project in implementation. We have both local and overseas funders, and we believe that this is the capital, not just of Gauteng, not just of South Africa, but the continent, for this sector and this country to become a major player globally. Of course, the issues of regulation with SAPRA need to be addressed urgently. Issues of master plan so that we work together in collaboration in an ecosystem is very, very important and urgent. I want to make an example. We are preparing our own business plan for the VAL Cannabis Capital. And yet, the very same department that we are working very closely with, in full support, particularly of the Premier, a few months ago, some reason gave a tender, if I may use the word, to some consultants, parallel to and in competition to what we're doing, to prepare a master plan business plan for the VAL in a cannabis hub. Consultants who know nothing about the industry, who did not consult anybody, and now there's... So it is important that we have one uniform collaborative ecosystem master plan for the cannabis sector in South Africa. Some of the feedback I've received from some of the industry players is that they don't have very nice things to say about the current master plan, meaning there may not have been adequate and proper consultation and collaborative cooperation with the industry in the preparation of the master plan. So I think we need to go back to the drawing table to say that government's intent, we agree and we believe, but maybe the modalities and the way it has been done was not reflective of how we create an investable climate and an industry. So I'd like to then ask Mark to make a comment on that.
Thank you. To be honest, I was going to agree with Mr. Malefani. I think what we found in the year and a half or so that we've been engaged and working on this project is there's a lot of industry leaders, or there's a lot of business-minded people within the cannabis industry, but all this knowledge is siloed in those different areas, and everyone is working at their own pace, for their own immediate need, and there's not a lot of collaborative support in standing up the industry, working with SAPRA to make sure that you're building a sustainable program that allows patient access and tracks patient outcomes, as well as providing the right guidance for entrepreneurs to get into the market. We're in contact with people on the consultancy side, as well as the client or customer base. And there's definitely gaps there that collectively, if we pool our knowledge and skills together, we could close. But as long as, as an industry, individual operators are continuing to operate on their own, it's going to make it a lot more difficult. So as Mr. Malefane was saying, we created a consortium, and this consortium was designed to bring some of the greatest cannabis minds, local cannabis minds together to help create and shape a program that's going to be beneficial for the local cultivators and operators within the network. Another thing that we're talking about introducing as part of this extended plan is Gmp Certified Guidelines with, certified organic and cannabis chemists who currently have cannabis in European and US markets, South American markets, and to have those individuals transfer some of those skills to introduce, some of the different types of equipment and methodologies that would work, and be a part of this whole skill transfer as well. If you want to sit at the global table and cannabis and you want to lead the industry, we have to make sure that, we're creating business plans that accommodate the entire value chain, that legislation allows for the program to grow and to flourish, that allows for licensed products to be exported into other markets. So it requires, again, less silo, more collective, work and agreement. So, as Mr. Malefane said, that's why the consortium was created. And if there's any interest, please feel free to reach out to him. Always.
Thank you, Mark and Mr. Malefane. I want to bring Dr. Okole in. He was part of the team that worked on the National Master Plan, and is also part of the team that's working on the provincial plan for Gauteng specifically. Dr. Okole, can you take us through what enhancement needs to be done over and above what is already in the plan, and the comments that have been made by other panelists with regard to enhancing collaboration as well as developing an ecosystem that is not held back by issues of legislation and other.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think one of my colleagues just sent a comment there, which is what I wanted to highlight. I think we have silos in the country and also here in Gauteng. I see we have almost 268. At one time, we had almost 280 something participants at this meeting. Most of them are SMMEs, I'm assuming. And I'm sure most of them have their own small thing that they are doing in their cupboard, in their product, in their bedroom, or in their labs and things like that. If only we can bring these people together, I think Gauteng alone can lead. If you have almost 268 SMMEs, I'm sure around 68 of them have products already. My prayer to Gauteng is that we have to be as practical as possible. Let's start making things happening. We've been talking too much. I mean, if we start talking and don't take what we already have to improve on what we already have, make sure that we can get these things to high quality, make sure that these products can go into the international market. We're still going to be talking for the next year. We are not going to have this golden product that's just going to land. We have to work with what we have, and we should appreciate the entrepreneurs that we already have in this province and with the products that they are already producing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Okode. Zaid, can you share with us that what has been your major challenge as an entrepreneur in the cannabis space? What has been that thing that gives you sleepless nights that really needs to be dealt with in order for you to grow and for other SMMEs to be able to grow?
Well, I think the first one is, like our colleague said, we're operating so much in silos was one thing. the lack of the ecosystem to support the entrepreneurs, whether it be to enable new or to develop existing ones or to look at sustainability. Or even if it is there in partial, but it's not actually connected. So the ecosystem is very disconnected. 3, I think the strategic malaise from national government to provincial to local government, understanding of what instruments and how we can get assistance. Even if, with the instruments out there, it's exceptionally difficult to get access to them, either because of inefficiencies or I think what we found is the worst is that we found in the entire ecosystem is the lack of information, or they've been poisoned by ill-informed consultants. So that was a very big challenge. So the ignorance within the system, within the industry, simple things like not understanding the difference between hemp and marijuana. It was more of an education. Whichever stakeholder we went to or engaged with over the past 18 months was more of an education one. And so I think that's what we need to overcome, is to be able to create deep segment skills, deep knowledge and industry knowledge that will be able to shorten the learning curve for the SMMEs. And then I think with regards to the stigma, I mean, it's still a big issue. I mean, up until recently, there were no financial instruments available to SMMEs, let alone any new black SMMEs that want to talk about cannabis. You've been seen as some drug dealer or stoner industry, and I think we need to overcome that. The biggest challenge, or should I say the suggestion that we've had and what we did go and do, as we went to go and look at how do we really consolidate these things? How do we get common dialogue, transparency, look at how do we assist each other within the ecosystem? Because again, when we try to, show people or engage with people, saying we're specifically looking in the hemp and we're only targeting 5 segments of the market. Again, it was a huge challenge because not only the confusion between hemp and marijuana, but also to then deeper segment everything else was a huge challenge. And as you know, the opportunity for inclusivity within the cannabis space, if I talk inclusivity for our young black entrepreneurs or farmers, is definitely not going to be in the food or medicine side of things because of the compliance issue. So we really went out as a deliberate strategy to look at partnering within the ecosystem, to look at industries that will allow participation for our people.
Okay, thanks, Zaid. Absolutely emphasizing the need to deal with fragmentation that is there, but also to extend the issue of building knowledge and building partnerships that would essentially enable. Mr. Mwaludi, from Hematics Health, also as a new company, do you also want to share with us what has been your major hurdle up to now, and that if unlocked will catapult the company into that 40 when the airplanes are cruising into that space, the cruising mode?
Yes, definitely, Ndade. I think, as been said, one of the issues is we're in a nascent industry, and the industry in a way needs to find its own voice for the purpose of further development and growth. So if you look at it, there's so many different associations that are all have slightly different agendas, but we're not really talking as one industry. So that's why we at Hematics are proud members of that VAL Cannabis consortium as well, because we're seeing the movement happening there, and because the more of us can collaborate, the better it's going to be. We're also dealing with the CSIR quite closely, because again, we don't necessarily believe in having to reinvent the wheel, but rather look for synergies within the industry and move ahead and keep sort of walking on each other's shoulders going ahead. But I think that one of the biggest challenges for us has been, besides the funding issue, is also probably on the regulatory side, where first of all, regulation is important. It's a day-by-day part of this industry, be it locally through SAPRA or once you start exporting, dealing with on the international markets, what's required there. But I think the local regulator has a huge part to play in understanding as well that for an SMME starting up, there's an incredible burden put on the cost of maintaining the business in terms of delays of compliance and getting the necessary regulatory accreditation from them. So that's definitely one of the major parts of it. The other one is also just developing the industry from scratch and finding the right talent, finding the right people to put them in place, and then growing from here on.
All right. I have a question from the chat. The first one comes from Bunzi Mufukeng, and Bunzi Mufukeng wants to know how can the other SMEs be supported. How can they be supported actually to actually get off the ground in relation to, is it the regulatory aspect? Okay, the regulatory aspect, yeah. Anyone who wants to just follow up on that question, I take it that anybody who can be able to speak to the latest developments with regard to regulations around hemp and can go ahead. Zaid, you can go ahead.
Thanks. I think with getting into the industry, I think for the past, and I'm sure my other colleague that's in the cannabis cultivation will agree, over the past 18 months, it's been extremely difficult for any cultivator in the industry. For one, the research permits didn't allow us to actually move our business forward. I think with all the research done, according to SAPRA, within that 12-month period, it got extended and it is now sitting with the Department of Agriculture to actually issue out commercial permits or research permits. And I think that's, for us, is a key key to the industry to being unlocked for lots of the entrepreneurs, or should I say, throughout the value chain, from a supply, demand, as well as the technology side of things. So I think from a regulatory framework side, yes, it has been gazetted, I think last month. So that has enabled a few of the ecosystem or the key economic actors to come together to start putting in instruments and start looking at their deliberate strategies. That's great. But I think, you're 100% right. The compliance around what we're going to do in hemp versus medicinal within SAPRA, I think those things still need to be ironed out. And the quicker we get to understanding what's going to happen with the hemp permits, as well as with regards to the SAPRA 22C license across its value chain, is the critical one for us.
Thanks, Zain. Mr. Mahludi, would you want to follow up or add to the response by Zain?
Yes, and I fully agree with them. And I think the place to begin is also in education. As a starting SMME coming into this industry, often you kind of find you don't really understand what compliance requirements are. You don't really understand some of the definitions you just mentioned now and where to play and what are the rules to play by. So I think definitely education is a key part of it.
And I was just going to, go ahead.
I just want to make one comment. I think, within this environment of getting to start up, we found that, yes, like you said, from a compliance, whether it be from a cultivation perspective, the infrastructure, which infrastructure, which resource and capability do you need, the access to finance, all of these things, as well as access to good resources. I think in this industry, you have the old illegal growers, and unfortunately, most of the illegal growers or cannabis growers from South Africa haven't done it at a commercial scale. So looking at what we need to do in South Africa around creating jobs, being cannabis cultivators, and it's not about cultivating, but cultivating at very competitive rate. And to do this, we saw, how to share this knowledge that we've actually accumulated over the 24 months. And we went to go and partner with key stakeholders like Chiba, Gauteng Economic Development, the banks, the financial institutions, all to shorten the learning curve. We actually even have partner farms so that we can not only just look at resource and capability and training, but also we developed a hybrid incubator, which is going to be launched in early January. That will allow us to have a very inclusive model for the people in the West Rand.
Thanks, Zaid. Yes, it's a good time to bring in Tate Malefane on the incubation subject, as well as Mark. How do we build and enhance incubation support for SMMEs in Gauteng and perhaps throughout the country? Tate Malefane, you can start on that aspect of incubation.
Yes, I was actually going to make a comment on the regulatory environment challenges, but also, I guess, respond to the incubation side of SMMEs. We are setting up a cannabis capital in the Val for the province, for the country. We also are cognizant that it has to have an impact on emergent growers, producers, SMMEs. So alongside our primary capital infrastructure, 1.5 billion rand development, we also will have launched early in the new year a cannabis development fund targeting SMMEs, because ultimately it's all about it. Secondly, it is also about offtakes. There are already many emergent SMME growers who are growing at great investment on their part, but don't know where to take their product. So we need to ensure that this cannabis capital is able to have the infrastructure hub for every SMME that comes into the market, that their quality of produce has a customer. Thirdly, we are dealing with a direct challenge of one of our clients. They're not an SMME, the impact on the SMME sector, because they are the currently largest processor of SMME produce around the country, and this is called Afriplex in Cape Town. There are a processing lab. We have a situation where one of our consortium members, CBD Spectrum, in the Bale Park, perhaps #1 cannabis grower in South Africa. After our premier, David Makura, in partnership with us, launched the cannabis capital in the Val of Gauteng recently. One of the positive response of that launch is that overseas companies started communicating with us, offering offtake contracts. One in particular in Australia was signed a take agreement through Spectrum and Afriplex in Cape Town, a major take agreement. The government in Australia issued an appropriate import permit. Now they are stuck with a deal because our own SAPRA to date has not agreed to issue them with an export permit. I am in current engagement with SAPRA as well with government on this matter. What we are also doing is we have made presentations and hope to have very soon a high-level engagement with SAPRA, with government at local, provincial, national level, and parliament to really very seriously address these issues of perceived SAPRA, using the word perceived, SAPRA non-cooperation support for the cannabis industry to come out of this and grow. And of course, without that, if major players are having the same serious problem, what more the thousands of SMMEs that we're encouraging to come into the framework, to the marketplace.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Tate Malefane, for touching on both on the three key issues of regulations, the ecosystem as well as the market offtake. This is the next point that I actually wanted to talk on. But before that, I want to ask Mark just to add on the aspect of incubation. I know Mark talks a lot about the genetic material, access to genetic material or seeds that are required for one to be able to access certain markets. Mark, can you just follow up on that aspect of incubation as well as access to support with inputs such as seeds or seed material as well as access to market?
Yes, absolutely. From an incubation perspective, I think that's why, collectively we reiterate, being a part of organization like the consortium. We have current licensed operators in that space. As Dr. Malefane was saying, we've got processors, we've got researchers, both local and international, pharmaceutical companies. So the entire resource from a cannabis value chain is at your disposal. You don't have to go and find it. And collectively, we are working together to grow and build these SMEs and introduce them into this cannabis marketplace. Now, from a genetic material perspective, there are a lot of established, licensed cultivators that have been, utilizing genetics over a period of time there that, we could add to seed banks and pull from those genetics. We've got testing equipment that we can source internationally and place locally that can show these breeders, these cultivators, what the medicinal benefit of their plants are, what the genetic makeup is, and what the value truly is. As much as cannabis as a plant is a medicine, within that plant, there are thousands of strains that have different medicinal values, entourage effects, and that should be part of the research and the genetics that's provided to these cultivators. When you look at a medicinal ecosystem, not everyone can grow or should be growing the same cultivar, meaning not everyone should grow strain A, right? There needs to be diversity within the market. And part of creating that diversity and structure is creating a central place for people to come and access these genetics that have medicinal value, provide them with the proper testing, the proper educational material, and assistance to cultivate these genetics in a way that produces the highest quality, medication possible.
Thank you, Mark. Dr. Okole, can you also make an input on the support mechanisms that we need for enhancing development of SMMEs, either incubation or any other mechanisms?
Yeah, I will speak on in Gauteng what facilities are available. I think Billy made a presentation there on what the incubation hub is doing. The CSR also is incubating. We work closely with the innovation hub. And I'm sure there are many also, my colleagues have also spoken of what is happening in the VAL. So that shouldn't be a problem. I think what may be a problem is a little bit of financial support to accommodate most of these SMMEs in most of these incubators, so that at least they can learn the skills. Because when you're in an incubator, you want to know how to go through the full value chain. What are you going to learn? How to get your product to the market, and that is basically what you do. And with COVID now, most of the incubation now is virtual, and you come once in a while to the lab and see what you are doing or work with your product and things like that. So we already have some of these facilities in the province, which we just need to harness and make it practical, especially for the cannabis. This is my view on that. On the germplasm and seeds, I feel it depends on the end product. You start with a product. If you want a product with high CBD, you must have a germplasm or a seed that has high CBD. So the genetics depends on what is going to be your end product. And also some off-takers also prefer certain particular genetics for the growers to grow on those, for them to be able to take as off-take. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Okole. There's a question from Vuisile, who's asking if should one be in the medicinal purposes, in the medicinal space, in order to grow for medicinal purposes. Would you like to take that question, Zaid?
Thank you. Yes, I think definitely I can answer. From our side, our founders, was made up of one doctor and 2 corporate executives. With regards to the in-depth knowledge, today we have 2 doctors, 2 pharmacists, all advising us and part of our shareholding and our board of advisory. So if you're going to serve those markets, you have to have deep segment skills and knowledge to know exactly what you want to, what's the end result. So I think if you want to get the right market and be successful, you definitely have to have deep segment skills in whatever you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that. We've spoken at length about regulations and licensing, and Lamu is asking a question about compliance and makes the point that compliance is locking us out. I have a young grower who, if given the space and access, would make a huge impact to the industry. Open the SA local industry, reduce regulation and compliance, open financing, allow us to grow SMME business. I want to touch on the 2 issues around financing. Zaid, in your opening remarks, you did touch a little bit about it, and I want to ask Ntate Malefane and followed by Mr. Mahludi on this aspect of financing. Ntate Malefane, from your side, as part of the consortium, what work are you doing of engaging the financing industry and ensuring that access to finance become accessible for SMMEs that wants to operate in this space?
As I already mentioned, our VAL Cannabis Capital Development is currently 1.5 billion investment, which funding we already have. We're just analyzing funding flow. But I think it's important to put this in the context that the VAL Cannabis Capital is the official catalytic anchor sector project of the VAL Special Economic Zone, officially in partnership with the government through the VAL SEZ. It forms part of a greater multi-billion-dollar investment economic development ecosystem of the VAL, which incorporates other anchor mega projects such as the VAL River Smart City, the VAL International Airport SEZ, the Vaal River waterways economy. It's a whole ecosystem economic development master plan for the Vaal region, which is, as I said, already allocated multi-billion dollars investment commitment. What we are now doing, specific to the cannabis sector, is that much and over and above the fact that this is a mega development that is positioning Africa for the global cannabis marketplace, we want it to be driven by SMEs. You'll understand that in order for us to be competitive and to supply the global market, we are going to need huge volumes and masses of biomass, which we cannot be able to cultivate and produce the raw material needed just by ourselves in the Vaal. Hence, it's also imperative for this major investment to ensure that there are hundreds of thousands of SMMEs that get into the sector to produce and supply the biomass via this huge operation in the Vaal. Hence, we have also agreed with our principal co-investors, international co-investors, that we should, by early next year, be ready, and we are currently structured the establishment of an SME, a cannabis development fund, so that SMMEs can have funds. This obviously will be a collaborative fund in partnership with other already existing funds like GEP, and other funders in South Africa, as well as internationally, so that we create a syndicate of funders that are ready to support SMMEs and to create a model in South Africa for SMMEs development and participation in the greater continental cannabis sector. So we are already doing that and sharing information and knowledge with some of the partners that we are participating together in this webinar, as well as those that are not part of the webinar. So I can say that I can reassure our SMME partners in this webinar who are participating, especially in Gauteng, that we are ready to support you and to mentor you and ensure that you enter this sector as an integral part of it. But we will need government involvement, we will need regulatory support, SAPRA, for this to happen.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Ndate Malefane. Let me ask the two gentlemen, Zaid and Ndate Malefane, just to also comment on that part of financing as well.
Yeah, I think if I could come in there, I think there's two areas. Within the cannabis industry, the incubation and SME development, what we've seen is, from an inputs as well as, from a demand side, the incubation and the support and SME development should cover the entire value chain, from the supply to the technology, which is a huge opportunity, apps that's available overseas around is unbelievable. In the more mainstream side of things, and that incubator will have all the critical areas, with regards to the SME development, critical business development services, critical infrastructure, the tools, access to finance, the investment, again, from an investment and access to finance. So it's a hook of offtake agreements. There we've modeled not just smart smart takeoff, but also not only soft landing, but smart takeoff. I think if we're talking about scalability of our SMMEs coming on board and starting, you're already saying that the scalability in certain industries, because of it being immature, is going to come from exporting opportunities. So soft landing and smart takeoff is critical. The enterprise and supply development, I hear from our colleague at Innovation Hub, I've seen most of the programs that they've developed, but I think the challenge with those programs, I could be wrong, it seems very enterprise and supply development focused, sponsored by certain industries. Now, with if we take that model, we definitely need our corporate South Africa that wants to play in the space to look at ESD funds to allow incubators or accelerator programs and boot camps to enable the newcomers. Then we're talking about, the work integration training. We've been engaging with all the 8 CETAs to look at how do we take unemployed graduates, how do we create domain experts by putting them into our partner farms, not just looking at the theoretical side of things. And this is where we had very good engagements with, with Chiba and the rest of the guys doing training, is how do you make it more practical skill? How do we get people that are ready to serve the industry? So the work integration training work integration aspect is critical for us to look at the unemployment side. And then the last one, which is kind of a big barrier, is the plant and machinery, and then also the infrastructure. Yeah, the infrastructure that is needed, whether it be medicinal, whether it be industrial, hemp, or if it's the marijuana side of things from a SAPRA perspective. How do you actually allow those entire things to come together? And then, looking at, shorting that from a real technical skills, which is not really there at the moment, from a business skills, not only in cultivation, because if we only focus on cultivation right now, and we don't get the demands